Okay, this is my very first attempt at soap carving, and right away the smell's kind of getting to me. This is like Dove, I don't know, green, Irish Spring, I don't know, whatever. It's just a bit overpowering, and the shape is kind of weird. You know, it's in that shape for a reason. It's supposed to be able to hold it in your hand well, but I try to carve out the edges of it. Here I'm trying to grab a spoon and make it softer. I noticed that the butter knife makes lines, apparently, so I'm trying to smooth it all out and correct it. And I'm just experimenting, I guess. Taking a sharper kind of carving knife, kitchen knife, and just seeing what I can do with this, how small I can cut without it breaking. And in a second you will see that I am going to break it. Yeah, not a great first attempt. I guess I was just trying to push it as far as I can go, but yeah, I needed to start over. So I'm gonna clean my tools off, get all the soap off, and try to save the soap scraps that I have, try to use them, I guess. But I went to the store and I looked for some just square bars of soap. Just some square bars of soap, and I wanted it to just be white, nice and easy to work with. These are really cheap for this 3-pack. It was $1.75-ish for this 3-pack of Ivory soap. When I went to the checkout line, the guy was like, "Hey, this soap smells really good. Like, I know it's cheap, but it smells really good." I'm like, "Oh, I believe you. I'm using it for soap carving." And he's like, "Oh, soap carving? That's kind of weird. Why are you doing that?" And I said, "Well, I am an art teacher and I need to figure out something to do for my ceramic students, and this is a way that we could still sculpt without having access to clay right now." And he's like, "Oh, cool." So I just tested a bit of it off there, and it's nice and soft, easy to carve. So there I go. I whipped out my sketchbook, and I just kind of learned from my first try that it's best to go in with a plan, an idea of what you want to do. And I was thinking of one of my favorite ceramicists, Sophie Woodrow. I just love her work. She works with porcelain, really beautiful kind of ethereal animal sculptures, and I'm trying to copy kind of her style here. She does kind of these like woodland farm creatures that are kind of elongated, kind of like a potato with a head on it and little feet. So here I'm trying to do like a little cow in her style, and I like it. And I think that if I were to do it, I would kind of make those patches on the cow a bit more like indented, like carve it in a bit more so they'll have a bit of shadow on those ridges. I'd probably need to make the feet a bit bigger too. Here I'm doing some kind of fish creature. There it has a little fin for an ear and scales and just a clown thingy. I'm just having fun, I guess. I always think that fish with like necks and a body, kind of like a humanoid kind of thing, is always just kind of funny to me. Or like a fish head with a body and legs. Fish are just fun to draw, I guess. So this is another kind of option. And here's kind of my last one, just kind of going with that potato shape. I was thinking Buddha kind of a thing, like some kind of monk, some kind of Buddha, but it's just like this little potato Buddha thing, just sitting down. I was also thinking of like just a creature or just a little like fat kid or something in a blanket, and it just kind of turned into this I guess. So I put a star there. That's gonna be the one I do. The way I drew his nose kind of made me think of those World War II graffiti things that were around for a while. I don't remember what those are called, but yeah, I'm gonna try to make his nose kind of long, kind of like that. So there I traced my soap on my paper just so I can get the size of it, and I want to try to carve as less soap as possible. So I'm trying to think of the dimensions, how it's going to turn out, trying to minimize the negative space so I'm not carving out just a whole bunch. I'm going to take a little pencil and try to sketch out that shape, the outline of that dude, my little bunk, my little monk Buddha, bunk. And let's start carving, I guess. Take out the biggest chunks. Things that I know I don't need for sure. I'm peeling it pretty much like I would peel potato. Trying not to cut myself, or lose control and cut myself with that blade. Now I'm working on rounding things off and just making it a bit more smooth. Trying to get a symmetrical, rounded shape to it. The surface of the soap had this kind of weird texture to it, and it was nice to see that while carving it kind of smoothed it out a bit more. Here I'm comparing the kind of relationship of the sizes of the face. I noticed that the head's kind of the size of my finger, and I noticed that I need to shave off a bit more to get it to the size that's in my sketch. I'm kind of realizing that I'm definitely not going to be able to get a rounded look to it. It's going to remain pretty flat, unfortunately. I'm trying to shave off a bit more on those corners and edges to try and get a more rounded feel. I need to flatten the bottom again though, because I want it to sit up flat. So the only way I could do that is to keep shaving off until the width kind of matches the depth of my soap bar. But I didn't really want to make it smaller, so I'm just gonna try to keep it this shape and work with it. I brought some water over, because I noticed that if I press in the edges a bit, it can be a little squishy if you kind of firmly press in those kind of edges. So I'm using some water to make sure it doesn't like crumble. It can kind of stay together and maybe smooth it out a little bit. And I think it's working a little bit. Now I'm trying to sculpt out some of the features on the head. I carved away a bit of the scalp so I can expose some kind of ear shapes. And I took a chunk where the eyes are so it can sink in a bit. And now I'm trying to carve out that kind of dangly nose shape. And I'm cutting in the cheekbones And around the neck. Something to definitely remember is that this is purely subtractive. You can't add a nose to it. You can't sculpt a separate nose and add it onto it. I don't know. I don't think soap can really stick to itself very well unless you have a lot of pressure. And you can't slip and score it like you can with clay. So you gotta make space and room so you can be able to carve out where things go back in the face. So making sure that the nose is protruding the furthest out, and then you have to carve back into the face. So it can be a little kind of thinking backward kind of a way of doing it. Kind of same thing with the layers of this robe. There's kind of the outer layer of the robe, and then an inner layer, and then kind of where his skin and flesh is supposed to be. And you gotta make sure the depths are correct. So I'm kind of mapping out with lines where everything goes, and then leaving the outer layer there, and kind of the, I don't know, we call it the collar of the robe is like the furthest up, and then it's like the fabric of the outer layer, and then the fabric of the inner layer with the collar, and then the skin. I'm gonna skip a little bit ahead here and kind of show you how it turns out. And here you can see, well, yeah, you can see a bit more definition. You can see the texture of the robe has kind of come out. I used a pencil to poke little dots for the eyes. I wish I separated them out a bit more. It looks a little derpy. I'm kind of happy with how the robe turned out. The kind of the sash through the middle and the way the collars look. Right now I'm just making sure that the shoulders are kind of rounded and symmetrical. The kind of chunkiness of it doesn't bother me too much. I feel like this is a good in-between. You know, kind of the disaster that was the green soap at the beginning was pretty bad. And this is kind of me figuring things out a bit more, getting a little bit closer to a satisfactory result. I'm going over it with water just to smooth it out where I can. Just a little bit of fine tuning. I know I could push this a bit more, make it more rounded, but I'm satisfied. I'm happy with it. And it looks pretty darn close to my sketch. Proportion wise, face wise, I like it. I don't hate it. I like it.